Hello my pumpkins and welcome back to the somewhat underwater but not always unlimited terror-inducing computer application, or Subnautica for short. Now this video is a little late for Halloween, but you know, better late than never. Today we will be taking Subnautica and turning it into an absolutely terrifying nightmare. Yes, they are the same image. But not for real, we're changing this to this, and this is a little different. Now I've done this twice in the past already, and looking back, I now realize there are three big problems with those videos. Number one, those are for Subnautica Legacy. Everybody's on Subnautica 2.0 now. Number two, half of the mods used in these aren't even available to the public, so it's not like you guys can just easily recreate them. And finally, not only are they way too complicated, but I also put in so many new creatures and animals and everything that it ends up being very cluttered and maybe not playing to the game's strengths. Now, we're rectifying all that today, so let me jump in and tell you exactly what I've done. Now, right as we load in, you might be able to notice that the life pod is a little jumpy. Now, there's a reason for that, but I think we should climb out first, and it's looking a little dark out there. The reason it's looking dark is because we happen to be 400 meters underwater. No horror video would be complete without the custom water level mod. Now if I swim a bit down here, you can now see some of what used to be the safe shallows. I added 500 meters of water, effectively turning everything into the void. This really makes all of the biomes much darker. Now, you might already be catching on to another thing that isn't here, and that's animals. Like, any of them. Well, not quite. See, I think the problem with a lot of the previous videos we've done was that we had way too many creatures. Everything felt cluttered because you could barely swim 10 meters without stumbling into something massive. Now that is creepy, but I think where Subnautica really benefits is from the feeling that you're alone and you never know where something scary could show up. So, using the Manage Creature Spawns mod, I have removed every single friendly fish from the game and only left us with some of the most terrifying that you can find. But now you're probably thinking, well, that's not too bad, right? I know where all of those creatures are. Well, don't be so sure. See, I wanted to keep it very simple today and only use a very small handful of mods. But one that we absolutely needed to have is Migrate. This allows creatures to move around quite a bit more within a certain set of biomes, so there is now a chance that you can find them in places where you wouldn't normally expect them. And look, some bone sharks were left in. Now, looking at these, you might also already see another thing that I've done here, because these are a little bigger than usual. And I specifically kept these in as to not give you guys a heart attack straight away. But we are also using the random creature size mod. What this does is it increases creature size by a random multiplier. Now, as of right now, I've set it up so that creatures can be anywhere between 120 and 300% of their original size. So there is a possibility there is a 300% scaled Reaper Leviathan that will come swimming at omega speed out at me somewhere from the darkness, and oh, I think I see it. Also, we're 600 meters deep, so that's not helping. Oh, it's definitely bigger. So at minimum, it should now be 120. Sorry. At minimum, it should now be 120% of its normal size, but you can push this even further. I mean, if you want them to be like 5 or perhaps 10 times their regular size, it is possible. I mean, this thing is definitely bigger than a regular Reaper, I can tell you that for sure. It means that you now never know at what point there will be a 300% scaled Reaper jumping out at you from the pitch blackness as you swim around. But of course, we're not done. As you might imagine, since everything is now the void effectively, stumbling into the actual void is frighteningly easy. And so I wanted to add something out there to make the experience even less pleasant than it normally would be. These Ghost Leviathans are also scaled, so that's pretty bad as is. You might be able to tell that you can no longer hear any sounds. That's because there is something else hunting us out here. And this is it! Woo boy! Jesus, that's the Silence Leviathan right there for you guys. Look at this freaking thing. So you know now, if you happen to stumble into the void, which is frighteningly easy, if you're for example looking for the island and just happen to take, you know, a slightly wrong turn, you never know when an invisible Leviathan will come charging at you, killing you in a matter of seconds. Now, finally, let's talk about the visuals. I'm sure you've noticed that the way my game looks right now is not vanilla. And that's right, it isn't. I'm using one of the shaders that you can download off of the Nexus. Most specifically, this is the Aeonic 2023 Real Gen shader. It is probably the most popular for the game, and if you want to kind of see the difference here, I can just very quickly switch between them. This is the game normally, this is with the shader. It makes everything look a bit more gritty, a bit darker, and I think it's still, you know, kind of playable. There are many other shaders which quickly turn into just a nightmare for your eyes, and probably a visit to the optician, but this one is very usable, and if you remove the black bars, because by default it comes like this for that extra cinematic feel, but you can very quickly just open the menu, remove the border, and get a much more playable version. Now, for your consideration, I also have one more shader that you could try if, you know, you fancy the look, and that is the Cinematic Overhaul. Here you can see what that looks like. It's perhaps a bit more washed out even, gives you a very, very grainy feel to everything, but I do have to say that with lava, I mean, it looks freaking awesome. And also just look at how eerie everything is now that there's no creatures. Of course, the dragon should be here. Oh, up to possibly 3 times its regular size. Again, here you sort of have the game without it, and here it is with it applied. Definitely adds a very nice vibe to it. And like, can I just say, this will never not be terrifying. Like, look at this. Boom. Just, there is the Aurora. Like, look at that. Just this absolutely giant hunk of metal. You're not exactly sure what the Reapers are, and you know that when they do appear, they can be up to 300% their original size. And all of this in just a handful of mods. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, this is very unpleasant. For reference, that's my sea moth. That's the Eye of the Reaper Leviathan. Look at that size. That is... oh, that is haunting. So my friends, there it is. This is how you can turn your Subnautica 2.0 even scarier perhaps than it is by default. Without 24 mods that aren't available to the public, you can replicate this entire setup yourself right now if you so desire. Now, of course, I have to come clean. The title can be a little deceiving. While this is being technically achieved by only a handful of mods, there are other mods in the background that are necessary to get these to work. But that, my friends, brings us to the end of this video, so I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did, maybe consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. All of those would be very much appreciated. With that, I'm going to wish you all a beautiful rest of the day, and I'll see you legends in whatever next video I make. Bye bye.